There is something happening behind your eyes right now, and you already know it. You may not have the words for it yet. You may have tried to explain it to someone close to you and watched them look back at you with a polite smile that told you they did not understand. That is all right. They were not meant to understand it. This moment was not designed for everyone. It was designed for you and the fact that you are. Here, in this exact second, hearing these exact words is not the result of an algorithm or a random scroll through a crowded feed. Something deeper than technology brought you to this place. Something with intention. Something that knew your name before you knew your own story. You have noticed it, haven't you? The way you sometimes look at a room full of people and feel like you are seeing something they are missing. The way a conversation will suddenly slow down inside your mind, and you will catch the meaning beneath the meaning. The thing no one said out loud, but everyone was quietly carrying. The way your eyes will land on a stranger across a crowded space, and you will feel, without explanation, that something significant just happened. You brush it off. You call it imagination. You tell yourself you are being dramatic, but it keeps happening. It has been happening for longer than you are willing to admit, and it is not imagination. It is activation. You are a chosen one, not as a title to be worn like a badge of pride, but as a reality to be carried like a torch in the dark. You did not earn this by being perfect. You did not qualify for this by having it all together. You were selected before you had any say in the matter, before your first breath, before your first mistake, before the years that bent you and the seasons that nearly broke you. The selection was made in a place you cannot visit with your physical eyes, and it was confirmed every single time you survived something that should have stopped you. Every time you kept going when every reasonable voice in the room told you to quit. Every time the door closed and something in you, some quiet and unshakable part, whispered that it was not over. That voice was not wishful thinking. That voice was prophecy. And now something is shifting. Your eyes are changing, not in the way that requires a visit to a doctor or a new prescription. The change is happening at a level that sits beneath the physical, in the part of you that perceives rather than simply sees. Where once you looked at your life and saw only what was broken, you are beginning to see what is being built. Where once you looked at your struggle and saw only evidence of abandonment, you are starting to see the fingerprints of a plan so precise it could only have been authored by something infinite. This is not optimism. This is not the result of positive thinking or a motivational weekend. This is the opening of a faculty that has always lived inside you, one that was dormant for a season but was never destroyed, one that heaven has been waiting to fully unlock. The final awakening does not arrive like a thunderclap. It arrives the way morning arrives, gradually and then all at once. You will look back on this period of your life and you will see clearly that the confusion was not punishment. The delay was not rejection. The silence you felt from heaven during the hardest nights was not absence. It was preparation. It was the holy and necessary darkness that precedes every genuine dawn, and you, chosen one, are standing at the threshold of your dawn right now. There are people in your life who do not know what to do with you. They never quite have. You have always been a little too aware, a little too sensitive to things that other people walk past without noticing. You feel the atmosphere of a room before you understand it. You carry other people's unspoken weight without meaning to. You have sometimes wondered if this made you weak. It does not. It makes you rare. And what has felt like a burden is about to become a bridge. Because the same sensitivity that made your journey harder than it needed to be is the very thing that will make your assignment more powerful than you can currently imagine. This is what the final awakening does. It takes everything that felt like a flaw and reveals it as a feature. It takes every wound and shows you the wisdom living inside it. It takes your eyes, these eyes that have seen too much and grieved too deeply and hoped too quietly for too long, and it transforms them into instruments of divine perception. You will begin to see people the way heaven sees them. You will begin to see situations the way eternity frames them. You will begin to look at your own reflection and recognize someone you were always meant to become, but never quite had the courage to fully believe in. That courage is arriving now, right now, in this moment. So do not dismiss what is stirring inside you as you hear these words. Do not reach for the part of your mind that wants to analyze and rationalize and reduce this to something small enough to be comfortable. Let it be as large as it actually is. Let the recognition settle into your chest like something coming home, because you have been waiting for this, even when you did not have a name for what you were waiting. For even on the nights when waiting felt indistinguishable from losing, you kept your eyes open, you kept your heart available, and heaven kept its promise. If something in these words is landing somewhere deep inside you, if you feel that quiet recognition that this moment was made for you, type the number 777 in the comments right now. Not as a superstition, not as a ritual, but as a declaration that you are here, you are awake, and you are ready for what comes next. This is only the beginning. What is already moving inside you did not begin today. That is the first thing you need to understand as this awakening continues to unfold. The stirring you feel, that quiet but unmistakable sense that something in you is reorganizing itself, that your perception is widening beyond what it was capable of yesterday. This did not originate in a moment of personal decision or emotional breakthrough. It originated in a decree spoken over your life long before you had the capacity to receive it, long before you had the vocabulary to describe what you were sensing, long before the world had done its best to convince you that what you felt inside was nothing more than fantasy or pride or delusion. You were not deluded, you were early. There is a difference between a person who imagines greatness because they are running from smallness, and a person who carries a genuine knowing that was placed inside them by something far greater than their own desire. You have always known, on some level, which one you are. Even in the moments when life pressed down hardest, when the evidence all around you seemed to argue against everything you believed about. Your own purpose, something in you refused to fully surrender the knowing. That refusal was not stubbornness. It was not ego. It was the faithfulness of a seed that has not yet broken through the soil but has never stopped growing in the dark. Your eyes are changing because your interior world is changing. And your interior world is changing because the season of concealment is ending. There are seasons in every chosen life where the most important things happening cannot be seen on the surface, where the growth is entirely underground, where the person being prepared looks, from the outside, like someone who is simply struggling, like someone who has not yet found their footing, like someone who peaked too early or started too late or simply does not have what it takes. The people around you during those seasons said things, sometimes out loud and sometimes only with their expressions, that told you they had already written a quiet verdict over your life. And you carried those verdicts. You carried them longer than you should have, turning them over in your hands. Late at night, wondering if the people who doubted you simply had access to a truth about you that you yourself could not see. They did not. They were looking at the surface of a story that was being written at a depth they were never equipped to read, and now the story is rising. This is the moment in the narrative where what was hidden becomes visible, where what was silent becomes a sound that cannot be ignored, where eyes that have been straining to see in the dark begin to adjust to a light that is finally, fully, arriving. And this light does not just illuminate what is in front of you, it illuminates you. It shows you to yourself in a way that is both humbling and magnificent because you begin to see not just who you are but whose you are. And the weight of that belonging changes everything about how you move through the world. Think for a moment about Elisha, not simply as a figure from an ancient text, but as a man who lived inside a reality that his physical eyes alone could never have sustained him through. Elisha walked in a dimension of perception that operated entirely differently from everyone around him. He knew things he should not have known. He saw things that had not yet happened. He perceived the movements of enemy armies from a distance that no natural intelligence could have bridged. And the people closest to him, the ones who served alongside him and lived in the same proximity to the same God, sometimes could not see what he saw at all. There is a moment in his story that speaks directly to what is happening inside you right now. His servant woke one morning to find their city surrounded. Horses, chariots, an entire military force assembled in the dark with one purpose: to eliminate the prophet and silence the voice that kept seeing too clearly for the enemy's comfort. The servant panicked. He ran to Elisha with fear written across every part of his face and cried out, asking what they were going to do. And Elisha, without flinching, without moving to the window to assess the threat, without running any kind of natural calculation, simply said, "Do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And then he prayed, not for deliverance, not for escape. He prayed that his servant's eyes would be opened. 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 17 says, "And Elisha prayed and said, 'Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see.' Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha." The mountain had always been full. The chariots of fire had always been there. The heavenly host had never left. The protection was never absent. What was missing was not the reality. What was missing was the opened eye. The servant was living in a state of genuine terror, not because the situation was hopeless, but because he could only see one layer of what was actually happening. And the moment his eyes were opened, the moment his perception shifted from the natural to the true, fear became impossible to sustain. You cannot maintain panic when you can see the full picture. You cannot remain paralyzed when your eyes are finally showing you what has been surrounding you all along. This is exactly what is happening to you. The mountain around your life has always been full. The provision, the protection, the purpose, the assignment, the divine reinforcement of everything heaven has spoken over you, none of it was ever absent. But for a season, your eyes could only see the army at the gate. You could only see the opposition, the shortage, the closed door, the unanswered prayer, the dream that seemed to be shrinking rather than expanding. And in that limited vision, fear made perfect sense. Discouragement made perfect sense. The quiet temptation to simply accept a smaller life made perfect sense. But your eyes are being opened now. The prayer that Elisha prayed for his servant, heaven is praying over you in this very moment. Open their eyes. Let them see. Let them perceive what has been true all along but hidden from their natural sight. Let them finally look at their own life and recognize the fullness of what surrounds them. Because a chosen one who can see clearly is a chosen one who can move without fear. And a chosen one who moves without fear is a chosen one who cannot be stopped. You are that person. You have always been that person. And the eyes that are changing in you right now are simply catching up to what heaven has known about you from the very beginning. The chariots are on the mountain. They have always been on the mountain. And now, at last, you are beginning to see them. The fire you feel rising in your chest right now is not something you manufactured. You did not talk yourself into this feeling. You did not arrive here through willpower or positive confession or the careful construction of a hopeful mindset. What you are feeling is recognition. It is the deep and ancient part of you responding to a truth that has been waiting for exactly this moment to land with its full weight. And the reason it lands so heavily, the reason it settles into you the way it does, is because some part of you has been holding space for this word for a very long time. You have been carrying a quiet expectation that something was coming, something real, something that would finally match the size of what you have always sensed was living inside you. That something is here now. And the eyes that are opening in you, These eyes that are beginning to see the chariots on the mountain, the protection surrounding you, the purpose assigned to your name. These eyes do not just change how you see the world. They change how the world responds to you. There is something that shifts in the atmosphere around a person whose inner vision has been awakened. People sense it before they can explain it. You walk into a room and something changes. A conversation that was going nowhere suddenly finds direction. A person who was closed becomes open. A situation that seemed fixed begins to move. This is not coincidence, and it is not personality. It is the overflow of a spirit that has been aligned with its source, and it is one of the most quietly powerful forces on the face of the earth. You carry that force. You have always carried it, even in the seasons when you felt like you had nothing left to offer, even in the periods when your own sense of purpose had gone dim, and the idea of being used for something significant felt more like a distant memory than a living expectation. The force did not leave you during those seasons. It waited. It held its position inside you the way a river holds its course even when the banks on either side are pressing in. And now the banks are widening. Now the river is finding room to move at the volume it was always meant to carry. Think about what happened to Elisha after his servant's eyes were opened. The story did not end with a private moment of comfort between a prophet and a frightened young man. The opened eyes produced a changed outcome. The enemy that had come to destroy was rendered powerless. The thing that was meant to silence the voice of heaven in that region became unable to complete its assignment. Because when the one who carries the anointing can see clearly, when fear is displaced by genuine spiritual sight, the opposition loses its primary weapon. And the primary weapon of opposition in your life has never been circumstance. It has always been limited vision. It has always been the narrowed perspective that makes your obstacles look larger than your resources, that makes the army at the gate look more real than the chariots on the mountain. That weapon is being taken from the hand of everything that has worked against you, because your eyes are open now. And open eyes change everything about how a story ends. There are people in your life right now who are where your servant was that morning, standing at the edge of their own fear, surrounded by a reality they can only partially see, desperately needing someone whose vision has been expanded to stand next to them and speak with the calm authority of a person who has seen the mountain. That is part of your assignment. That is part of why this awakening is happening in you, at this particular moment in time. Not just for your own liberation, though your liberation matters deeply and heaven does not consider it a small thing, but also because your opened eyes will become a gift to everyone who is still straining to see in the dark around you. You are not just being awakened for yourself. You are being awakened as a carrier of light into spaces that have been living in unnecessary darkness. And that is a responsibility worth honoring, worth protecting, worth orienting your entire life around. If this message has been reaching something real inside you, if these words have been landing in a place that feels less like entertainment and more like a divine appointment, then there is something simple and meaningful you can do right now. Share this message with someone who needs it. Not because a number matters, but because you know, better than most, what it feels like to be in the dark and suddenly hear a voice that helps you see. Be that voice for someone today. Pass this forward to the person in your life who is standing at their own gate, surrounded by their own army, unable to see the mountain. Your act of sharing could be the moment their eyes begin to open. And if this channel has been a place where your spirit has found something genuine, where the words have consistently reached you at the level where you actually live, then consider supporting what is being built here. There is a link in the description and in the pinned comment where you can contribute to this work and help ensure that these messages keep reaching the people who need them most. Every act of generosity, no matter the size, is an act of partnership in something that is touching lives in ways that statistics will never fully capture. The donate link is there for you whenever you feel moved to use it. And if you have not yet subscribed, do that now, quietly, without fanfare, as a simple act of saying yes to staying connected to what heaven is releasing through this space. Because what is coming in the sections ahead is going to go even deeper than what you have already received. The awakening that has begun in your eyes is about to extend into every other dimension of who you are, and you will want to be present for every word of what comes next. There is a moment in every awakening where the internal shift begins to require an external response, where what heaven has been doing quietly on the inside starts to look for a corresponding action on the outside, where the opened eyes begin to search for the tools, the pathways, the practical expressions of what the Spirit has already received. This is that moment for you, and what I am about to share with you is not a departure from everything we have been building together in this conversation. It is a continuation of it. It is the place where the spiritual and the practical meet, where the divine invitation and the human response find each other and produce something that neither could create alone. You have heard the story of Elisha. You have sat with the image of the servant whose eyes were finally opened to see the chariots on the mountain. And what strikes me every time I return to that story is the detail that comes just before the miracle of opened vision. Elisha did not simply declare that the mountain was full. He prayed. He made a specific, intentional request for a specific, practical outcome. Open his eyes that he may see. There was an action. There was a deliberate movement toward the thing that was needed. And heaven responded to that intentional reach with something that changed everything. Your intentional reach matters. The steps you take toward your own awakening matter. And I want to tell you about something that thousands of people have already reached toward. Something that sits at the intersection of what science has discovered about the human brain and what you already know to be true about the way you were designed. Something that has been quietly accelerating exactly the kind of inner shift that you are already experiencing. It is called the genius wave. Now, before you settle into any assumption about what that means, stay with me for just a moment, because the story behind this matters as much as the thing itself. Dr. James Rivers, a neuroscientist with over 30 years of dedicated research into the architecture and behavior of the human brain, spent the better part of his career studying a very specific question. Why do some people seem to operate from a place of clarity, creativity, and effortless insight, while others, equally intelligent, equally capable on paper, seem to struggle to access that same level of inner resource? What he discovered, through years of careful and rigorous work, was not a personality difference. It was not a talent difference. It was a frequency difference. The human brain operates across multiple wave frequencies, and two of them are particularly significant for what we are talking about. Theta waves, which move at a frequency of 4 to 8 cycles per second, are associated with deep creativity, rapid learning, intuition, and the kind of meditative clarity that most people only touch briefly before losing again. And gamma waves, which operate at the highest end of the brain's natural spectrum, are associated with what researchers describe as peak cognitive performance, the eureka moment, the sudden flash of insight that reorganizes everything, the state of flow where thinking becomes effortless and solutions appear almost before the questions are fully formed. Here is what Dr. Rivers found. Children operate in theta almost constantly. It is the dominant frequency of a young mind that has not yet been taught to limit itself, that has not yet accumulated the weight of repeated disappointment or the habit of shrinking its own expectations. And the people throughout history who have demonstrated extraordinary levels of creative genius, visionary thinking, and what we might quietly call divine insight. These people access theta and gamma at a level that most adults have drifted far from. The drift is not permanent. That is the discovery that changes everything. Using a precisely calibrated combination of audio frequencies, including what is known as binaural beats and isochronic tones, the brain can be gently and effectively guided back into those states. Not forced, not manipulated, guided. The way a tuning fork causes a nearby string to vibrate at its own natural frequency, the right sound, delivered at the right frequency, invites the brain back into a state it was always designed to inhabit. The Genius Wave delivers this in 7 minutes a day. That is the protocol. 7 minutes of listening with headphones or speakers, requiring no special skill, no prior meditation experience, no particular mental effort. You simply listen, and your brain begins to do what it was always made to do. A man named Marcus had spent 11 years working a job that paid his bills but slowly emptied something essential inside him. He described it to his wife one evening as feeling like he was thinking through wet concrete, every idea slow, every decision exhausting, every morning beginning with a heaviness he could not name or shake. He started using the Genius Wave on a Tuesday, almost without expectation. The way person reaches for something when they have stopped believing anything will actually work. By the end of the 3rd week, he had drafted the business proposal he had been circling for 4 years, submitted it on a Friday afternoon, and received a response by Monday that changed the entire direction of his life. He wrote later that the strangest part was not the outcome. It was that the thinking felt different, lighter, like something that had been jammed had finally been released. More than 19,000 people have now integrated this practice into their daily lives. The return rate, meaning the number of people who used it and then requested a refund, sits below 4%, which means that more than 96 out of every 100 people who committed to 7 minutes a day found something real enough to keep. That is not a marketing number. That is a human story multiplied by thousands of people who reached toward their own awakening and found something waiting for them on the other side of that reach. The investment is $39, not the kind of number that requires a season of deliberation, not the kind of commitment that demands a sacrifice, and it comes with a 90-day full money-back guarantee. 90 days to try it, live with it, let it work, and decide for yourself whether what you experienced was worth far more than what you paid. If it is not, you get every dollar back. No argument, no process, no question. That is the confidence of something that knows what it delivers. So here is the direct word, because you deserve directness. You are already in an awakening. Your eyes are already beginning to see what they were designed to see. And the Genius Wave is a tool that can meet that awakening at the level of your biology and help your brain catch up to what your spirit is already receiving. It is not magic. It is not a replacement for faith or for the work of heaven in your life. It is a bridge, a precise, scientifically grounded, practically accessible bridge between where your mind is today and where it is capable of going. The official link is in the description below and in the pinned comment. Please use only that link, because there are imitations and copies that will not deliver what the original has been built to deliver. Guard your access to the real thing the same way you guard your access to any genuine source of transformation. What is authentic is worth protecting. And now, having said all of that, having placed the practical tool in your hands, I want you to understand something that matters more than any product or protocol or scientific discovery. The real awakening that is happening in you right now is not contained in an audio file. It cannot be reduced to a frequency or measured in a laboratory. The 7-minute tool can support it. It can accelerate it. It can help remove some of the biological friction that has been standing between you and the clarity you were made for. But what is actually happening in you? The opening of your spiritual eyes, the recognition of the chariots on the mountain, the slow and magnificent emergence of a chosen one who is finally beginning to see themselves and their world with the vision heaven always intended. That is the work of something no technology can produce, and no science can fully explain. That work is already underway in you. It was underway before you found this message. It will continue long after this conversation ends. The tool is an invitation to participate more fully in your own transformation. The awakening itself is a gift that comes from a source that has known your name since before the foundations of the world were laid. Receive the gift, use the tool, and keep walking forward, because what is ahead of you, what your newly opened eyes are about to see, is more than worth every step of the journey that brought you to this moment. The eyes that are opening in you right now did not open because your life became easy. They opened because you stayed. That is the detail that most people overlook when they observe someone walking in genuine clarity and genuine purpose. They see the clarity and they assume it was always there. They see the confidence and they assume it came naturally. They see the opened eyes and they imagine that person simply woke up one morning and found themselves seeing. They do not see the wilderness. They do not see the long, disorienting, often silent season that preceded the clarity, the season where nothing made sense and the promises felt like they had expired, the season where the very faculty that was being developed, the capacity to see truly and deeply and without fear, was being forged in conditions that felt like the opposite of preparation. But wilderness is always preparation. That is one of the most consistent and most uncomfortable truths woven through every story of genuine transformation. The wilderness is not where your destiny goes to die. It is where your destiny goes to become strong enough to be carried. And if you have been walking through a wilderness season, if the terrain of your recent years has felt barren and confusing and longer than anything you were told to expect, then what you are actually standing in the middle of is a forge. And what is being formed in the fire is something that could not have been shaped anywhere else. Think about what Elisha inherited before he ever performed a single miracle, before the chariots of fire, before the opened eyes of his servant, before the moment when his perception of the invisible world became so clear and so settled that fear simply had no ground to stand on in his presence. Before all of that, there was Elijah. There was the mantle. There was the moment of succession that happened not in a palace or a sanctuary, but in an open field beside a plow in the middle of an ordinary working day. Elisha did not audition for his calling. He did not present credentials or make a case for his own readiness. He simply responded. He burned his plow, slaughtered his oxen, fed his community, and followed without negotiating the terms. That kind of response is only possible when something in you has already been prepared to say yes without needing to see the full picture first. Elisha's yes in that field was not reckless. It was the response of a person whose interior had already been quietly oriented toward something larger than his current circumstances. He may not have known exactly what he was walking into, but he knew enough. He knew that the voice calling him was real, and that a real calling deserved a real response, not a partial one, not a conditional one, not one that preserved all his safety nets while gesturing in the direction of obedience. This is the quality of the yes that your awakening is now asking from you, not a performance of surrender, not a dramatic gesture made for the benefit of an audience. A quiet, settled interior yes that releases your grip on the smaller version of your life and opens your hands to receive the larger one. And the wilderness you have walked through, the season that felt like loss and confusion and delay, was the very place where that quality of yes was being formed in you. You cannot manufacture that kind of settled surrender in comfortable conditions. It only grows in the places where you have had everything else stripped away and discovered that you are still standing, that something in you is still oriented toward the source, that the knowing has not left you even when the evidence for it all but disappeared. Elisha walked with Elijah through a final journey that read, to any outside observer, like an ordinary series of stops through familiar geography: Bethel, Jericho, the Jordan. And at each stop, Elijah tested him, told him to stay behind. And at each stop, Elisha said the same thing. "As the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you." He was not being stubborn. He was being faithful to a perception that was already operating in him, a knowing that this journey mattered, that the final destination held something that no earlier stopping point could offer, that the fullness of what he had been called to receive required that he not settle for a partial inheritance at a comfortable location along the way. You have been Elisha at Bethel, told by circumstance or by the voice of well-meaning people that this is far enough, that what you have received so far is sufficient, that the place you are standing is a reasonable place to stop and build something manageable. And something in you has kept saying, quietly and at considerable personal cost, that you will not stop here, that there is more, that the fullness of what you have been called to requires that you keep moving even when the terrain ahead is unclear, and the people beside you are not making the same choice. That faithfulness is not stubbornness. It is perception. It is the early operation of the very eyes that are now fully opening in you, the eyes that could see, even in the middle of the wilderness, that the destination was real and the inheritance was worth the full journey. And now you are approaching the Jordan. You are approaching the place where the inherited mantle falls and the double portion is given, and the eyes that have been straining toward the invisible finally see with the clarity they were always designed for. The wilderness did not waste you. It weighted you. It gave your opened eyes a depth of field that only comes from having looked for a long time through conditions that required you to see beyond the surface of things. And that depth of field is about to become one of the most significant gifts you carry into the next season of your life. Because the people you are going to reach, the spaces you are going to enter, the assignments you are going to fulfill, they are going to require exactly the kind of vision that can only be formed in the wilderness. The kind that does not panic when the surface looks threatening. The kind that does not shrink when the opposition assembles at the gate. The kind that looks at an impossible situation and sees, with calm and settled confidence, the chariots on the mountain. The word speaks directly to this quality of vision and what it produces in a life that refuses to abandon the journey before the fullness arrives. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18 says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish, but happy is he who keeps the law." Vision is not optional equipment for a chosen one. It is the essential infrastructure of a life that fulfills its purpose. Without it, even the most sincere and willing heart loses its way, not because the calling was false, but because the capacity to perceive the path forward was never fully developed. With the kind of opened, awakened, wilderness-forged vision that you are now carrying, even the most complex and demanding assignment becomes navigable. Not easy, but navigable. Not without resistance, but without the kind of paralyzing confusion that comes from being unable to see beyond the present obstacle. You kept the vision alive through the wilderness. You kept your eyes oriented toward the source even when the source felt impossibly distant. You kept saying, in your own way, at your own Bethel and your own Jericho, that you would not stop here, that the full inheritance was worth the full journey. And heaven heard every quiet, costly, faithful declaration of that orientation. Every morning you got up and kept going, when staying down would have been easier. Every moment you chose to believe what you could not yet see. Every time you said yes to a calling that the visible world around you had not yet confirmed. All of that is being honored now. All of that wilderness faithfulness is being woven into the fabric of the vision that your eyes are carrying into this new season. And the clarity that is coming, the depth of perception that is settling into you even as you receive these words, is not a reward for a performance well executed. It is the natural and inevitable fruit of a seed that was planted in genuine ground and tended through genuine seasons, including the hard ones, especially the hard ones, and has now reached the moment of its full and unhurried emergence. Your wilderness is ending. Your eyes are open, and what you are about to see will make every step of the journey worth it. There is a quality that begins to emerge in a person whose eyes have been opened through wilderness seasons, through faithfulness maintained under pressure, through the kind of sustained interior yes that does not negotiate with comfort or compromise with fear. It is not loudness. It is not the kind of confidence that announces itself before it enters the room. It is something quieter and considerably more powerful than that. It is a settled knowing that expresses itself not in what you say about yourself, but in how you move through the world, in the steadiness of your gaze, in the unhurried quality of your decisions, in the way you can sit in a room full of noise and chaos and remain connected to something that none of the noise can reach. This is what opened eyes produce over time, not just the ability to see more clearly, but the ability to remain grounded in what you see when everything around you is working to destabilize your perception. You are beginning to walk in this. You may not have named it yet. You may still be in the early days of recognizing it in yourself, catching it in moments and then losing it again, finding it in the morning and then watching it thin out as the day accumulates its weight. That is normal. That is the rhythm of a vision that is still settling into its full strength. The servant whose eyes were opened by Elisha did not immediately become a prophet. He had a moment of seeing, a genuine and transformative moment, and then he had to learn to live from that new level of perception, to trust it, to act from it, to resist the pull back toward the narrower view that had felt more familiar even though it had produced nothing but fear. You are in that learning now. And the learning is not a sign that the opening was incomplete. It is a sign that the opening was real. Real transformation always requires a period of integration, a time when the new thing that has been received begins to find its proper place in the structure of your daily life, your relationships, your decision-making, your self-understanding. During this period, you will sometimes feel the full clarity of your opened eyes, and it will be magnificent. And you will sometimes feel the pull of the old narrowness, and it will feel uncomfortably familiar. Do not be discouraged by the pull. It does not mean you are going backward. It means you are human, and the work of sustained transformation is being done in you at the level where it will actually last. What you are developing is not a temporary elevated state. It is a new baseline. A new floor beneath your perception that will hold you even on the days when the clarity feels distant and the mountain feels empty. Because you have seen the chariots now. You cannot fully unsee them. The knowledge that they are there, that the protection and the purpose and the divine reinforcement of your calling are real and present, and not contingent on your ability to feel them in any given moment. That knowledge has been written into you at a level that circumstance cannot erase. And that is exactly the kind of vision that changes not just how you see, but how you live. Think about what Elisha's opened vision produced in the practical geography of his life. It was not simply a private spiritual experience that made him feel better about his situation. It was a functional faculty that changed what he was able to do, what he was able to offer, what he was able to carry into the spaces where heaven needed a clear-eyed representative. He could see the movements of armies. He could perceive the hidden intentions of the hearts around him. He could navigate situations that would have paralyzed a person operating only from natural sight. And none of this made him arrogant or untouchable. It made him useful. It made him available to be placed exactly where the need was greatest, because a person who can see clearly is a person who can be trusted with the most demanding assignments. That is where you are headed. The opened eyes that are settling into you are not for your private comfort alone, though your comfort and your peace genuinely matter to heaven. They are for your assignment. They are the equipment that your particular calling requires, because the spaces you are going to enter, the people you are going to reach, the situations you are going to navigate on behalf of others who cannot. Yet see, these things require exactly the quality of vision that your wilderness produced and your faithfulness preserved. and your awakening is now fully releasing. There is something that happens in the atmosphere around a person who carries this kind of vision. People are drawn to it without always being able to explain why. They find themselves saying things to you that they have not said to anyone else. They find themselves trusting you with the real version of their situation, not the managed and presentable version, but the actual weight of what they are carrying. They look at you and they feel, somewhere beneath their conscious awareness, that you are someone who can see them. Not just their surface, not just their performance, but the truth of who they are and what they are carrying and what they are capable of becoming. This is one of the most sacred dimensions of your calling. Not the visible platform or the recognized influence or the measurable impact, though all of those things are part of what is coming. But this, the capacity to see people the way heaven sees them, to hold the truth of who they are even when they cannot hold it for themselves, to be present with someone in their wilderness, and carry the knowing that the chariots are on their mountain too, even if their eyes are not yet open to see them. This is the gift that your opened eyes make possible, and it is a gift the world around you is desperately hungry for. You are going to step into rooms where people have stopped believing that anyone can truly see them. You are going to have conversations where your simple, grounded, clear-eyed presence becomes the thing that shifts the atmosphere. You are going to look at someone who has been told by everything around them that their story is over, and your eyes, these wilderness-forged, heaven-opened, awakening-deepened eyes, are going to tell them the truth, that the mountain is full, that the chariots are there, that the story is not over, that the best of what they were made for is still ahead of them. That is not a small assignment. That is not a secondary calling that exists alongside your real purpose. That is your real purpose, expressed in its most human and its most holy form. And you are being equipped for it right now in this season, through this awakening, through every word that has been landing in the deep place inside you as you have received this message. If this channel has been a place where something genuine has been finding you, where the words have been meeting you at the level where you actually live and struggle and hope and believe, then there is something simple you can do right now to extend that reach to someone else who needs it. Share this message. Not as a transaction, not as an obligation, but as an act of vision. Because you have just received something, and you know with your opened eyes who in your life is standing at their own gate this morning, surrounded by their own army, unable to see their own mountain. Send this to them. Let what found you today find them too. And if you have been walking with this channel for a while and you feel a genuine desire to support the work that makes these messages possible, the link in the description and the pinned comment will take you directly to where you can do that. Every contribution, regardless of its size, is a partnership in something that is reaching people in places, and at moments that neither of us will ever fully know about this side of eternity. Your generosity matters, and it is received with genuine gratitude. Subscribe if you have not yet done so, not because a number needs to grow, but because what is being released through this space is building towards something, and the sections still ahead in this message alone are going to go to depths that will require you to be fully present and fully connected to receive them well. Stay. There is so much more still coming, and every word of it was prepared with you specifically in mind. Because you are not here by accident. You never were. And the eyes that brought you to this moment are only just beginning to show you everything they were made to see. What you are carrying right now is heavier than it looks from the outside. Not heavy in the sense of burden, though there have certainly been seasons where the weight of your calling felt indistinguishable from the weight of your suffering. Heavy in the sense of substance. Heavy in the sense of density, the way gold is heavy, the way something that has been formed under pressure carries a specific gravity that lighter things simply do not possess. The people around you may look at your life and see someone who is still in process, still becoming, still working out the details of a destiny that has not yet fully materialized in the visible world. But what your opened eyes are beginning to show you is something different. They are showing you the weight of what you carry, the specific gravity of what has been formed in you, through every season of pressure and every night of unanswered questions, and every morning of choosing to believe again in something you could not yet see. That weight is not a liability, it is a qualification. There is a profound difference between a person who speaks from a place of theory and a person who speaks from a place of formed experience. Theory can inform. Formed experience transforms. And the transformation that your words, your presence, your opened eyes are going to carry into the lives of the people around you is going to come directly from the weight of what you have been through, the depth of what you have survived, the quality of what has been built in you through the very seasons you most wanted to escape. You were not just enduring those seasons. You were being qualified. You were accumulating the specific kind of authority that cannot be borrowed or imitated or shortcut, the authority that comes from having actually walked the road, having actually spent time in the wilderness, having actually stood at your own gate surrounded by your own army and chosen, at considerable cost, to keep your eyes fixed on the mountain. That authority is now yours to carry, and it is beginning to show in the way you see. There is a dimension of Elisha's story that does not receive as much attention as the dramatic miracles, but it is perhaps the most instructive part of his entire journey for what you are walking through right now. After he received the mantle, after the double portion was confirmed, after his eyes had been opened and his calling had been fully activated, Elisha did not immediately move to the largest stage available. To him, he moved to where the need was. He went to Jericho, where the water was bad and the land was unfruitful, and he healed the spring. Not a spectacular act by the standards of the surrounding culture. Not the kind of miracle that commands immediate international attention, but a precise, targeted, deeply necessary act of restoration in a specific place that was suffering from a specific lack. This is the pattern of a person whose eyes are truly open. They do not perform for the largest audience. They move toward the deepest need. They are not driven by the desire to be seen, but by the capacity to see, to look at a situation and perceive exactly what it requires and offer exactly that, without excess and without shortage, with the kind of precise and purposeful generosity that only comes from a vision that has been refined through long seasons of waiting and watching and learning to see past the surface of things. You are developing this precision. The awakening that is happening in your eyes is not just widening your field of vision, it is sharpening your focus. It is giving you the ability to look at a person and perceive not just what they are presenting but what they actually need. To look at a situation and see not just what is visible but what is possible. To look at your own life and see not just where you are but where you are being taken, and to hold that vision with enough steadiness and enough patience to let the journey complete itself without forcing it into a shape that your impatience prefers over the shape that heaven has designed. This patience is one of the marks of truly opened eyes. The servant who saw the chariots did not then rush out to fight the army himself. The sight produced not frantic action but grounded calm. Because when you can truly see, when your perception has been expanded to include the reality of what heaven is doing, and not just the reality of what the opposition is attempting, urgency gives way to alignment. Panic gives way to purpose. The frantic energy of a person who cannot see and therefore cannot trust gives way to the steady, deliberate, deeply effective movement of a person whose eyes are open, and whose trust is therefore not a discipline they are forcing, but a natural response to what they can actually perceive. This is the posture you are growing into, not passivity, not the kind of spiritual resignation that dresses itself up as peace while actually being fear wearing a different costume, but the genuine, active, fully engaged stillness of a person who knows what they are doing and why they are doing it, and who is doing it with them. The stillness of someone who has looked at the mountain and seen the chariots and therefore moves through the valley below with a quality of confidence that is not manufactured and cannot be shaken by whatever assembles at the gate. The Word names this posture with remarkable precision. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31 says, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Waiting here does not mean passive inaction. In the original language, it carries the sense of twisting together, of being braided into, of wrapping your expectations so tightly around the character and the faithfulness of God that the two become inseparable. It is the posture of a person whose eyes are fixed not on the army at the gate, but on the one who fills the mountain with chariots of fire, and who waits, actively, expectantly, with every faculty aligned toward the source, for the moment when the fullness of what has been promised arrives in the fullness of its time. You have been learning this wait, through every season that lasted longer than you thought you could sustain, through every period of silence that tested the depth of what you actually believed when the confirming voices went quiet, through every morning of choosing to orient your eyes toward the source when everything visible was pointing in a different direction. You have been learning the wait that Isaiah describes, the kind that does not deplete but renews, the kind that does not diminish but expands, the kind that does not leave you smaller at the end of the season than you were at the beginning, but larger, stronger, more precisely formed, more specifically equipped for the exact assignment that the fullness of time is now preparing to release you into. Your strength is being renewed, not recovered, not restored to what it was before the hard seasons came, but renewed, which means made new, which means brought to a quality it has not possessed before, which means that what you are carrying into the next season of your life is not a repaired version of what you had before the wilderness, but something genuinely and qualitatively new. Something that the wilderness itself produced, something that could only have been formed there in the pressure and the silence and the long, faithful, costly wait. Mount up. Your eyes are open. The chariots are on the mountain, and the strength that has been renewed in you through every season of waiting is about to find the full expression it was always being prepared for. Not someday, not eventually. Now, in this season, in this awakening, in the life that your opened eyes are only just beginning to fully see. And that expression is not coming in some distant and indefinite future that requires you to first resolve every remaining uncertainty in your life before it can begin. It is coming now. It is already in motion. The renewed strength that Isaiah describes is not a strength that waits for perfect conditions before it activates. It is a strength that moves into imperfect conditions and transforms them, that enters the valley carrying the knowledge of the mountain and refuses to let the valley define the story. You have that strength. It has been renewed in you through every season of waiting that felt like weakness but was actually the deepest kind of formation. And it is ready now, not almost ready, not ready pending a few more adjustments. Ready. So when you wake tomorrow and the familiar weight of the unresolved tries to settle back onto your shoulders, remember this moment. Remember what your opened eyes have seen. Remember the chariots. Remember the mountain. Remember that the army at the gate has never once been the full picture, only the part of the picture that fear has been trained to focus on. And choose, deliberately and without drama, to focus on what your opened eyes can now see instead. This is the daily practice of a chosen one whose awakening is complete. Not a single dramatic moment of transformation followed by effortless living, but a consistent, faithful, eyes-open choice, made again every morning to see from the level of the mountain rather than the level of the gate. And every time you make that choice, every time you orient your vision toward the fullness rather than the lack, you are not just changing your own life. You are quietly and powerfully changing the atmosphere of everything and everyone around you. Mount up, your wings are ready. Something is being sealed in you right now. Not closed off, not locked away, but sealed in the way that a letter is sealed when it is finally ready to be delivered, when everything that needed to be written has been written, when the message is complete and the moment of sending has arrived. There is a finality to this season that is unlike anything you have experienced before in your journey, and your opened eyes are beginning to perceive it, not with anxiety, not with the kind of breathless urgency that comes from fear of missing something, but with the quiet, settled recognition of a person who has been on a long journey and can finally see, on the horizon ahead of them, the shape of the place they have been walking toward all along. You have felt this before, perhaps. That sense of something completing, that interior knowing that a chapter is genuinely ending and not simply pausing before more of the same arrives. But this time is different, and the difference is not in the feeling itself, but in the depth from which it is rising. Previous seasons of transition moved through you at the level of emotion or circumstance. This one is moving through you at the level of identity. What is being sealed is not just a situation or a relationship or a professional season. What is being sealed is a version of yourself that you have outgrown, a way of seeing that no longer fits the eyes that are now open inside you, a relationship with your own calling that was always too small for what you were actually made to carry. And what is being released in its place is the full stature version of who you were always designed to be. Think about what happened in Elisha's life at the moment of fullest transition. He had walked the entire journey with Elijah. He had refused every invitation to stop short of the destination. He had maintained his yes through every test and every stopping point along the way. And then they reached the Jordan. And Elijah took his mantle and struck the water, and it divided, and they crossed on dry ground, and in that moment everything that had been preparation became activation. The crossing itself was the seal. The act of moving through the divided water was the confirmation that the journey had not been in vain, that the faithfulness had not been misplaced, that the inheritance that had been promised was real and was now, finally, within the reach of a hand that had been made ready to receive it. Your Jordan is in front of you. The crossing is happening. And what waits on the other side of this transition is not more preparation and not more wilderness, and not more of the particular season of hidden formation that has shaped you into the person you currently are. What waits on the other side is assignment. Active, visible, fruitful, fully expressed assignment. The kind of life that your opened eyes have been seeing glimpses of for years, in your most honest dreams and your quietest moments of prayer, and the sacred spaces between sleeping and waking, when heaven sometimes speaks with a clarity that the noise of the day has not yet arrived to interrupt. That life is not a fantasy. It never was. It was a preview. It was your opened eyes seeing ahead of time what your faithfulness was building toward, what the wilderness was forming you for, what the long wait was making possible. And now the seeing and the living are about to converge. The vision and the reality are about to occupy the same space at the same time, and when they do, when what you have seen in the spirit becomes what you are walking in the natural, the effect on your life and on the lives of everyone connected to you is going to be something that no amount of planning or striving or self-improvement could have produced. Because this is not the fruit of your effort alone. This is the fruit of a divine collaboration. Your faithfulness and heaven's faithfulness, braided together through every season of the journey, producing something that neither could have created independently. You brought your yes. You brought your willingness to keep moving when stopping would have been easier. You brought your refused surrender at every Bethel and every Jericho along the way. And heaven brought everything else, the chariots on the mountain, the renewed strength for every leg of the journey, the opened eyes at exactly the moment when seeing became the thing that made the difference between fear and faith. Now bring what you have seen into what you do. This is the integration that this season is asking of you. not a dramatic gesture, not a sudden and total reinvention of your external life overnight, but a consistent, daily, deliberate choice to act from the level of your opened eyes rather than the level of your old fears. To make decisions from the perspective of the person who has seen the chariots rather than the person who only saw the army. To speak about your life and your future and your calling from the place of genuine vision rather than the place of anxious qualification. This is what it means to walk in the fullness of your awakening. Not to feel it constantly, not to perform it publicly, but to live from it privately and let the fruit of that private living become increasingly visible in the quality of everything you touch. The quality of your relationships, the quality of your work, the quality of your presence in every room you enter and every conversation you carry and every decision you make on behalf of the people and the purposes that have been entrusted to your particular and irreplaceable care. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9 says, "Eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him." This verse is often quoted as a comfort about eternity, about what waits beyond this life. And it is that. But it is also a declaration about the present reality of a life that is aligned with its source. The things prepared for you are not only waiting in another dimension of existence. They are pressing against the boundary of your current perception, waiting for your eyes to open wide enough to receive them. And your eyes are opening. They have been opening throughout every section of this journey together. And what they are about to fully behold, what is pressing against the threshold of your current seeing, is more than your previous version of yourself had the capacity to hold. But this version of you, this wilderness-forged, faithfulness-tested, awakening-deepened, Jordan-crossing version of you, this version has the capacity. This version was built for exactly this. And the seal that heaven is placing on this season of your life is the confirmation of that capacity. The divine endorsement of a readiness that has been earned through every moment you chose vision over fear and faithfulness, over comfort and the full inheritance over the convenient stopping point. There is one thing I want to ask you to do right now, and it is simple. In the comments below, type the words "My eyes are open," not as a performance for anyone reading, not as a signal to be noticed, but as a quiet, personal declaration between you and the truth that has been finding you throughout every word of this message. A declaration that you have seen the chariots, that the mountain is no longer empty to you, that the version of yourself who could only see the army at the gate is being replaced, in real time, by the version whose eyes have been touched by something that no opposition can undo. 4 words. My eyes are open. Let them sit in the comments as a marker of this moment, because you will want to remember, in the seasons ahead when clarity temporarily thins and the old narrowness tries to reassert itself, that there was a day when something in you shifted permanently. Let today be that marker. Let those 4 words be the stone you place at your own Jordan, the memorial of the crossing that is happening in you right now. The seal is being placed, the crossing is happening, and you are ready. What is on the other side of a genuine crossing is never what you imagined it would be. And I mean that in the best possible way. The human imagination, even at its most expansive, even at its most faith-filled, and vision-oriented and genuinely surrendered to the possibilities of what heaven can do, is still working with a limited set of reference points. It is still drawing from the pool of what has already been seen and experienced and understood. And the things that God has prepared, the things that are waiting on the other side of the Jordan you are currently crossing, do not come from that pool. They come from a source that your previous experience has not yet given you the categories to fully contain, which means that what is ahead of you is not just better than what you have been through. It is different in kind. It belongs to a different order of reality than the one your old eyes were equipped to perceive. This is why the opening of your eyes matters so profoundly at this particular moment. not just so that you can see more of the same reality you have always inhabited, but so that you can perceive a dimension of your own life and your own calling and your own future that your previous level of vision simply did not have the resolution to render. There are things prepared for you that have been invisible not because they were hidden from you as a punishment or a withholding, but because the eyes that needed to receive them were not yet ready. The vessel was not yet formed to the shape that the fullness required. And the wilderness, the waiting, the faithfulness maintained under pressure, all of it was the forming. All of it was the shaping of a vessel that can now hold what could not previously be contained. You are that vessel, formed and ready, eyes open, standing at the threshold of a life that your previous self could only glimpse in the most unguarded moments of genuine hope. Consider what Elisha stepped into on the other side of the Jordan crossing. He had asked for a double portion of the Spirit that rested on Elijah, and Elijah had told him that it was a difficult thing, but that if he saw him when he was taken, it would be granted. This is one of the most quietly profound conditions in all of Scripture. The inheritance was contingent not on Elisha's strength or his strategy or his accumulated religious merit. It was contingent on his sight. If you can see it, you can receive it. If your eyes are open at the moment of transfer, the fullness will be yours. He saw it. He kept his eyes open through the whirlwind and the fire and the dramatic and disorienting spectacle of a translation he had never witnessed before and had no natural framework for processing. He did not look away. He did not close his eyes against the overwhelming nature of what was happening. He saw, and the mantle fell, and the double portion was confirmed. And the first thing Elisha did with his newly inherited authority was strike the Jordan with the mantle and cry out, asking where the God of Elijah was. And the waters divided, and he crossed back. And everyone watching from the other side saw it and said, "The spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha." The spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha, not the memory of Elijah, not the reputation of Elijah, not a pale imitation of what Elijah once carried. The Spirit, the actual, living, active, present tense anointing, transferred through a moment of seeing to a vessel that had been prepared to receive it through years of faithful, costly, eyes open following. This is what your opened eyes are making possible right now. Not a second-hand version of someone else's calling. Not a diminished or diluted or borrowed expression of a purpose that really belongs to another season or another person. Your own full inheritance. The specific, irreplaceable, heaven-assigned portion that has your name on it and always has, that has been waiting in the fullness of its power for the moment. When the vessel was ready and the eyes were open, and the crossing was complete. And the people watching from the other side of your Jordan, the ones who have known you through the wilderness seasons, the ones who watched you maintain your yes when everything around you was arguing for a smaller life, they are going to see it. They are going to see the shift. They are going to notice something in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak about your life, in the way your eyes rest on a situation and perceive it. That tells them something has genuinely changed. Not performed, not manufactured, genuinely changed. And some of them are going to be drawn toward what they see in you in a way they cannot fully explain, because what they are responding to is not your personality or your presentation, but the spirit that is now resting on you, the fullness of an inheritance that was worth every day of the journey it took to receive it. You are going to reach people that no one else in your specific sphere of influence could reach. Not because you are superior to the people around you, but because you are specifically formed. Your particular combination of wounds and wisdom, of wilderness seasons and faithful mornings, of opened eyes and formed character, this combination is not an accident and it is not common. It is the precise and intentional result of a preparation process that heaven has been superintending from the very beginning. And it makes you uniquely equipped to reach into the specific corners of the human experience where your assignment lives. There are people who will only receive what you carry, who will only open to the truth when it comes through your particular voice, with your particular history behind it, with your particular quality of seeing in your eyes. People who have been resistant to every other messenger not because the message was wrong, but because the vessel was not the one that matched the shape of their need. You are someone specific. Answer: you are someone's particular key. And the awakening that is happening in your eyes is what is going to allow you to find them and reach them, and offer them exactly what heaven has been holding in trust for their moment of receiving. This is the weight of what you carry, and it is a beautiful weight. It is the weight of genuine purpose, of specific assignment, of a calling so precisely tailored to who you are and what you have been through that it could not have been designed for anyone else. It fits you the way the mantle fit Elisha, not because you earned it through perfect performance, but because you were made for it, prepared for it, and have. Now, through the opening of your eyes and the crossing of your Jordan, arrived at the place where you are finally ready to wear it fully. Nahum chapter 1, verse 7 says, "The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and He knows those who trust in Him." He knows you, not just knows of you, knows you, the particular shape of your struggle and the specific texture of your faithfulness and the exact quality of what has been formed in you through every season of the journey. He knows what the wilderness produced in you that no other environment could have produced. He knows what the waiting built in you that ease and comfort never could have built. He knows the depth of the yes that you have been carrying through every season that tested whether you meant it. And that knowing, that precise and intimate and completely comprehensive knowing, is the foundation on which everything that is coming next is being built. You are known, you are seen, your eyes are open, and what comes next is the full and unhurried and magnificently specific expression of a calling that was written over your life before you drew your first breath, and has been faithfully advancing toward this moment of full emergence through every single day of the journey that brought you here. The other side of the Jordan is real, and it is more than you imagined, and your opened eyes are about to show you everything. You have come a long way in this conversation, not just in the sense of words received or time spent, but in the sense of something interior that has genuinely shifted between the moment you first arrived here and this moment now, at the threshold of everything that has been building toward its fullest expression. Something is different in you than it was when you began. You may feel it as a settling, a quieting of, something that has been restless for a long time. You may feel it as an expansion, a sense that the walls of your own self-understanding have moved outward to make room for something larger than what you have been carrying. You may feel it simply as a warmth, unnamed and unhurried, that sits in the center of your chest and does not ask to be explained or justified or defended against the skepticism of the more cautious parts of your mind. Whatever form it is taking in you right now, do not dismiss it. Do not reach for the analytical distance that would allow you to process this moment rather than inhabit it. Stay here. Stay present to what is happening in you, because what is happening in you is real, and real things deserve to be fully received before they are examined. Your eyes have been opened throughout this journey together. Section by section, layer by layer, the vision that was always living inside you has been rising to the surface, finding its language, claiming its rightful place in the center of how you understand yourself and your calling and the season you are standing in. You have sat with Elisha at the Jordan. You have seen the chariots on the mountain. You have walked through the wilderness and recognized it not as punishment but as preparation. You have stood at your own gate surrounded by your own army and chosen again to keep your eyes on the mountain. And now you are here, on the other side, in the place where the crossing has happened and the mantle has fallen and the inheritance that was always yours is now fully, finally, irrevocably in your hands. This is the moment for a prayer, not a formal or practiced or carefully constructed prayer, a simple one, the kind that rises from a place too deep for performance. If you are willing, let these words become yours as you receive them, shaping them in your own heart as they move through this space. Father, I come to you with eyes that are open in a way they have not been before. I come with the weight of the wilderness still on my shoulders and the evidence of your faithfulness still fresh in my memory. I come having seen the chariots on the mountain, having crossed my Jordan, having received the mantle that was always prepared for this moment in my life. I am not the same person who began this journey, and I am grateful, genuinely and deeply grateful, not just for the destination but for every step of the road that brought me here, for the hard seasons that formed what the easy ones never could have, for the silence that taught me to hear at a deeper frequency, for the wilderness that shaped a vessel capable of holding the fullness of what you have prepared. Open my eyes wider still. Let me see people the way you see them. Let me perceive situations the way eternity frames them. Let me carry the chariots on the mountain knowing into every room I enter, and every life I touch, and every moment of doubt that tries to reduce my vision back to the size of the army at the gate. I receive my inheritance. I receive my assignment. I receive the fullness of the calling that you wrote over my life before I drew my first breath. And I say yes to it without negotiation and without reservation, with everything I am and everything I have become through every season of this journey. Amen. That prayer did not return void. It never does when it rises from a place of genuine and open-eyed faith. What you just released into the atmosphere of this moment was not wishful thinking or religious formality. It was the declaration of a chosen one who has seen the mountain and chosen to live from that seeing, permanently and without apology, into every dimension of the life that waits ahead. And what a life it is! What a magnificent, specific, irreplaceable, heaven-authored life is waiting for the full expression of who you now are. The rooms you are going to enter, the people you are going to reach, the conversations that are going to shift atmospheres, the decisions that are going to redirect not just your own story, but the stories of everyone whose life intersects with yours in the days and months and years ahead. None of it is small. None of it is accidental. All of it has been prepared with the same care and the same precision and the same intimate knowledge of who you specifically are that has characterized every single detail of the journey that brought you to this moment. You are not walking into that life alone. You carry everything that the wilderness built in you. You carry the opened eyes that the faithfulness earned for you. You carry the mantle of an inheritance that was confirmed at your Jordan crossing and cannot be revoked by any force that assembles against you. And you carry the knowledge, settled now at a level that circumstance cannot reach, that the mountain is always full, that the chariots are always there, that the one who fills the mountain with fire knows your name and has known it from before the beginning and has been faithfully, purposefully, lovingly superintending every detail of the story that has made you exactly who you are. Go forward with open eyes. Go forward with the weight of your genuine inheritance in your hands and the settled knowing of the chariots in your chest, and the prayer you just released still echoing in the atmosphere around you. Go forward as the chosen one you have always been but are now, finally, fully becoming. Not because the title makes you better than anyone around you, but because the calling makes you responsible to everyone around you, responsible to carry the light, to hold the vision, to see the chariots when others can only see the army, and to speak with the quiet, grounded, wilderness-forged authority of a person whose eyes have been opened by something that no opposition can close. If this message has found you today and something in it has genuinely landed, the most natural thing you can do is share it with someone who needs it. You know who they are. Your opened eyes can see them. The person in your circle who is standing at their gate this morning, surrounded by their army, unable to see their mountain. Send this to them. Let what found you find them too. And if this channel has been a consistent source of something genuine in your life, If these messages have been meeting you at the level where you actually live, then consider subscribing if you have not yet done so, and consider sharing this space with the people in your life who are hungry for what is being offered here. The link for those who feel moved to support this work financially is in the description and in the pinned comment below. Every contribution is an act of partnership in something that is reaching people in places and at moments that neither of us will ever fully know about, and it is received with genuine and unhurried gratitude. Your eyes are open, the mountain is full, and the life ahead of you is more than worth every single step of the journey that brought you here. This is only the beginning of what you are now able to see. You did not find this message. This message found you. And the difference between those two things is the difference between coincidence and covenant, between random and chosen, between a moment that passes and a moment that permanently marks. Something was looking for you today, something with intention and with knowledge of your name, and with a precise understanding of exactly what you needed to hear at exactly this point in your journey, and it found you here in this moment through these words. Carry what you received today, not as a memory of a moving experience, but as a living reality that shapes how you see from this moment forward. The chariots are on the mountain, your eyes are open, and you, chosen one, were made for exactly this.